This episode of the Cult Popture podcast was brought to you by our Patreon. If you want to tell us which films we should watch, get up to 2 extra exclusive podcasts a month, give us something to talk about in the post-credit scenes at the end of each episode, or even contribute to the discussion in the episode itself, then please consider joining the cult and donating at www.patreon.com/cultpopture. Hello everybody, welcome to the Cult Popture podcast. My name is AJ, and today we're doing something a little different. Richard isn't here with me right now, he is in China at the moment. Gone to fight the final boss of COVID. He's gone to find the bat. But in the meantime, you will hear Richard in this episode, don't worry. In the meantime, we thought, why not give the people what they so desperately want, another Patreon sample pack. So if you don't know what this is, what we're going to play for you today are 2 episodes from our Patreon backlog. These are episodes from 2 to 3 years ago over on Patreon. We're going to play you an episode first of film franchise follow-ups, which is a show we do on Patreon where we revisit an old franchise and go, hey, what's something else we can cover? Sometimes it'll be like a TV show that was spun off from the movie, or a short film or something. Or it'll be a movie that's come out since we've covered it. And so for this episode, you're going to hear a sort of a missing piece from our MCU coverage on the Mother Show, the free show, which is our review of Spiderman Far From Home. Not Homecoming, not No Way Home, but Far From Home, the second one. We recorded this just after it came out in 2019, and we felt a little weird that, you know, we did our MCU catch-up earlier this, or end of last year or earlier this year, and so you could listen to our thoughts on every MCU movie except for this one. So we've made it free for you all to listen to now if you'd like to check it out. And then we're going to play you an episode of our other show, which is called generic_movie_podcast.exe, which is a podcast where our patrons, they choose a movie, they suggest and vote for a sequel-less movie, and we watch that. And this episode, you're going to hear our thoughts on Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So, if you like what you're hearing, if you like the sound of these episodes, please do consider getting in on the ground floor and listening to all of these episodes years before they're released to the public over at patreon.com/cultpopture. Film franchise follow-ups is our cult member tier, so that is $5 a month, and generic movie podcast is our cult leader tier, so that is $10 a month. So if you want to get these exclusive podcasts, patreon.com/cultpopture. And now I will chuck you over to our thoughts on Spider-Man Far From Home and our film franchise follow-ups episode. What's up, patrons, and welcome to Film Franchise Follow-Ups. This episode we're talking about Spider-Man Far From Home, which makes this a film franchise follow-up to not just the Spider-Man franchise, but also the MCU, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, hey, that's pretty cool, AJ. I think that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool, and this episode, we both saw the movie about 3 days ago, but this episode will be coming out like a month later, I think.
Yeah, we'll drop it when we feel like it.
This one's going to stay in the bank for a bit, so we will be talking about it with fresh thoughts, but the movie itself may have been become a bit stale.
Dated too well.
Yeah.
All right, Spider-Man Far From Home. Peter goes on a summer vacation to Europe, and hot on his heels are Nick Fury and Maria Hill, who want him to help out with the threat of the elementals, which is their beings from another planet, or another dimension, which is Mysterio's dimension. Or is it?
Spoilers. That's
what the film's about.
Spoilers for the whole movie. You've probably seen it by now. What did you think of it, Richard?
I real liked it. I thought it was real good. I thought even though when the film was announced, or the trailer first came out, everyone saw the twist coming. I think they, in a weird way, like, you know, when we talked about Toy Story 3, I said it wasn't really a villain twist because it's revealed so early on that he's a villain, and it's more about waiting for the characters to learn.
Yeah.
This is like they held off the twist so long that you begin to doubt if they're actually doing it.
Yeah, it's a weird situation where, because everyone knew Mysterio is traditionally a villain, it was more about waiting for waiting to see, waiting for the pin to drop than anything else. No, I agree. I liked it. I thought it was really cool. I think I had a very interesting experience with this movie, Richard, because first of all, anything that's to do with the storyline of the MCU as a whole, so like the snap and stuff like that, they call it the blip in this movie.
Yeah, that's cool.
I find that so captivating.
Yeah,
it's intoxicating to get to further the story. It reminds me of like watching Lost back in the day. You know, like the MCU, one of the benefits of it releasing more than one movie a year is that you get to move along a story faster. And until Infinity War, I feel like that story wasn't something that was particularly captivating in and of itself. It was more the individual movies were cool. But now it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? So I loved anything that's to do with coming back after the snap, anything that's to do with Tony Stark's death, all of that I found super, super interesting. And, you know, thankfully Mysterio is kind of intrinsically related to that as well. But I got to tell you, man, before the reveal, before you found out that Mysterio was in fact a bad guy, I was struggling. I was like, man, I'm not sure how into this I am. Like, I definitely didn't hate it, but I was like, Peter goes on holiday and like the danger just happens to follow him. Like, that's pretty convenient. And then I was like, the elementals are such like first grade storytelling, you know, tropes. Like, I've written stories about the elementals. It's such an easy, you know, like it's the first thing you think of. And I was like, this is so lame and so poorly written, despite the fact that I'm interested in a lot of the storyline. And then you find out that the reason it's poorly written is because it's literally being written by like someone on Mysterio's team of Stark traitors. And it's like, so now I've got to forgive the rest of the movie, because the reason the danger's following Peter on his holiday is relevant, and the reason that the elementals are dumb story ideas is because it is being written by someone.
And also you have the thing as well as we like first half of the movie, because I love Jake Gyllenhaal, but it's like for the first half of the movie you're like, man, his performance isn't that great, like he's nothing to write home about, and then you realize like, oh, it's because Quentin Beck isn't a very good actor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. And so I was full of that until the reveal. And despite the reveal itself being somewhat ham-fisted, I was like so on board after that. I was like, this is great. I love that the story of the bad guys is that they were people who worked for Tony Stark that felt jilted by him and wanted to
to see Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps on the big screen again. And they got back the same guy, who's also the kid from A Christmas Story.
Wow. Oh, wow. And so I loved it's a really good motivation to have them be wanting the spotlight, and actually a very true to Mysterio, like an MCU version of Mysterio's classic origin of wanting the spotlight, but it's got a bit more nuance now. So that's really cool. I really liked that. And yeah, that was sort of my main takeaway was that it took me a while to get on board. But once I did, I really got on board. Comparing it to Spider-Man Homecoming, I'm at somewhat of I'm of two minds about it, because on one hand, it's like, oh, the MCU stuff is so much more interesting in Far From Home than it was in Homecoming. Like, I'm way more into it now. But then like comparing it to just the actual story, like there's nothing as good as the Michael Keaton as Liz's dad twist in this. And Michael Keaton himself, I would say, is probably an actor I enjoy watching more than Jake Gyllenhaal. Not that Jake Gyllenhaal's not great in this film, but it's like from what I've seen, the general consensus is that it's like just above par with Spider-Man Homecoming as people's reactions to it. Like everyone's like, if Spider-Man Homecoming is an 8 out of 10, this is an 8.5.
Yeah. There are some really good stuff in this film though. Like the coolest part of the film, well, one of the coolest parts about the film, there's a definitive like best part of the film, which we'll talk about in a sec. But the Mysterio fight scene where he's like, fully like changing reality essentially for Peter, and he doesn't know what's going on, and you see Iron Man rise up from the grave with the gauntlet. Cool. It's so well done, and it's so like straight out of the video games as well. Like it's such a like this was such a good thing to see on screen, and it's very similar to the scene in Doctor Strange when she like opens up his mind's eye, and I always thought that scene in Doctor Strange was cool, but not they could have gone further with it, and I hope that they go further with all that stuff in Doctor Strange too. But I thought this was such a brilliant realization of that style, because it's like, oh, I'm trying to reach for this thing. Oh, now like it's turned into this, and then I'm trying to reach for that, and it's that kind of like they're very similar scenes. But the coolest fucking part of the film comes in the mid-credit scene. Where, and this was like I'd heard, make sure you stay to the end because the mid-credit scene is the bomb. And so what happens in it is, so Mysterio's gone, but and Peter's happy with MJ. They're swinging around town, and then he sees a news broadcast that's conveniently got great sound and on the side of a building. Which says that, like, before Mysterio died, he released this piece of video footage, and it reveals that it makes Spider-Man look like the villain, and it's like, and this was released by controversial news website, the Daily Bugle, and then we have the glorious return of J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man, and then it's revealed to the world that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But man, what was your reaction when that came up?
I went, yeah, they got him.
Did you say that out loud?
Because I feel like post-credit scenes in Marvel movies, when you're in the cinema, it's kind of fair game because everyone staying behind is kind of in on an inside joke almost. Right. Because people always leave at the credits in MCU films, and everyone who's not leaving looks at the people leaving, being like, "Do you fucking not know how to watch an MCU film?"
Yeah. I went.
Because like after that scene, when the credits started rolling again, some people in front of us got up, and a bunch of people got up, and I was like, "No, don't leave! There's another one!" And the people, I didn't say it very loud. I was more like saying it to my friends than to the actual people leaving. Yeah. And the people in front of us turned around. They're like, "Oh, is there?" And I was like, "Yeah. There's another one." It's like, "Okay, sit down." It was awesome. Great. It was like a little moment of sharing something together with strangers.
Cool. When we saw Endgame, because there's no middle post credit scene in that. Because the first time we went, the staff were there like waiting for us down at the bottom, and then it just went to credit and then went to black, and then they were like, "Ooh," and the whole audience was like, "Oh, what?" And then when because I went later that opening day as well, I went twice on opening day. The second time I went, I just like got up and was like, "See ya," and then people were like, "Look at him, he doesn't know," and I'm like, "You're the one that doesn't know." But I also had a funny interaction watching Spider-Man Far From Home. So it was like a more or less sold out screening, and fuck, there was like massive lines at my theater, and I was sitting next to an empty chair, and I was like, "Oh, it's weird, this chair's empty." And then like the trailers had started, and a guy came and sat down there, and then the movie started. The movie was like a couple minutes into it, and people were still like walking in, like 5 minutes in or something like that. And so like 5 minutes into the movie, someone like has their phone light out and is like looking around the cinema trying to find their seat at like the row in front of me, opposite but the opposite end of it, because I was on the aisle, so they were on the opposite aisle. And I was like, what the fuck are they doing? So distracting. And I was like, what the fuck are they doing? There were people like obviously sitting that entire row. And then, so I was like looking down at them, and then I caught the eye of the guy next to me who sat in this seat. And I was like, oh, these fucking guys. And he's like, yeah, that's just like when you pretend you don't know them, eh? And I was like, what? And then he was like, bro. And then he pointed, and they were sitting in front of us. And the guy sitting next to me like was friends with them. And I was like, you're all horrible people. And then because the guy next to me as well just like kept texting for the first like 20 minutes of the movie. And but like it seemed he's just like, oh yeah, I'm just like he sent a photo of the screen after like during the in memoriam segment at the start. Yeah. And like sent a photo there. I was like, oh bro, I'm just a Spider-Man. And then it was like, oh yeah, I should probably go now. And I was like, have you people never been to the movies before?
Was this your friend?
Huh?
Was it this person your friend?
No, it was just some dude who came into the movie late and then was like, you know, we had a moment where I was like, oh, get a load of these guys down the end, and he mentioned that he knew them, and I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, so that's my story. Because like the first of all, the three of you didn't sit together. So you obviously don't know anything about booking tickets to the movies. And then you'll fucking just rock up whenever you feel like it, flashing your phone everywhere.
Yeah. No, that sucks, man. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks, man.
So back to that mid-credit scene. I'd heard the buzz about the mid-credit scene, and I think I was expecting something a bit more than what it was. Like, of course, it's cool and kind of like an interesting talking note to that they got an actor who's previously been in a previous universe's iteration of the character back for the same character, and that's not the same as like if Deadpool was in the MCU.
Yeah, yeah.
Like this is just like, I mean, no one when Lou Ferrigno was in Incredible Hulk, no one was like, oh, it means it's set in the same. Although I guess he's playing a different character. Yeah. So I don't know. It's whatever. It's clearly just meant as like a tongue-in-cheek thing.
Yeah.
You know?
For me, I had the hype I'd heard about the mid-credit scene. I kind of worked out that either J.K. Simmons or Tobey Maguire makes an appearance.
And that's the thing.
Like, and it's not even like I heard like, oh, I can't believe they got him back or anything like that. It was just like the way people were excited about it. I was like, this means there's a reference to the Raimi films. Because
I was thinking,
people don't get excited about the reveal that Nick Fury's a Skrull, you know?
Yeah. I was like, it's either going to be Tobey Maguire, J.K. Simmons, or it's going to be like an X-Men thing. Was my other my other thought. But I don't know. I think because here's another thing about this movie, which I'll talk about just after I mention this, is that with like the buzz of this movie being about the multiverse, I was kind of thinking we were gonna see Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker in a multiverse scene in the mid credits, and I don't know whether I'm disappointed it didn't do that, but I think I do want to talk about, is it a bummer that the multiverse stuff is a hoax?
Yeah, well, it was one of those things. It's like going into it, I was like, I'm interested to see how they managed to keep me on board doing the obvious Mysterio twist and making the multiverse a lie. Because that was the two things that I was like excited for. I was like, that's awesome if Mysterio's not a villain and we just have Jake Gyllenhaal added, and it's awesome if the multiverse is actually real. But I mean, I guess the predictability of it made it kind of less of a disappointment, you know? And they were still able to have quite a lot of fun with what they did end up doing.
Yeah. No, totally. It's more that, like, because another thing that wasn't actually in the movie that really got me on board in the beginning was that they mentioned that Quentin Beck got to our universe because the snap ripped a hole in time and space. And they don't actually say that in the movie. And part of what I was excited about was just seeing the, like, quantum repercussions of the snap. And it feels like they cut that out of the movie. And so I'm not disappointed necessarily because I like what the movie had to offer, but it did feel like we were dipping a toe in the larger expansion of what the Marvel like canon can do. And to know that, at least in this case, it's not real is, I don't know, I'm kind of bummed out by that.
I read a theory as well that was cool that the snap and the like energy that it gave off kickstarted the mutant gene.
Yeah.
And that'll be how the X-Men come into it. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I think, as I said, I'm of two minds about it because there's some stuff I really loved and there's some stuff that I was kind of not as I was like kind of whelmed by compared to other more recent outings.
Can we talk about what did you think of the end credits, the post-credit scene? They reveal that Nick Fury and Maria Hill had been Skrulls for the whole movie. They've since confirmed that at Tony's funeral in Endgame that's the real them. Like, and then So they just took over for this mission to give Nick Fury a break, essentially.
Yeah, I'm interested because I feel like the ramifications of that actually aren't that big.
Yeah,
to be honest,
it's just like, oh, this movie, Nick Fury won't remember it. But yeah, it was quite funny that there are like a few clues throughout, like Nick Fury just kind of acts a little bit weird in this film, and there's the line where he's saying like, oh, can't you get these other heroes to help? And he says Captain Marvel, and Nick Fury's like, don't invoke her name, and it's such a weird thing to say, but it makes sense for Talos.
Yeah. I'm glad. My favorite thing about it is the fact that they got Ben Mendelsohn back, which makes me feel. Which it's like when what's his name? Korg showed up again in Infinity War. It was like, you haven't forgotten about like one of my favorite parts about Ragnarok. You know, he wasn't just a monster of the week character who was in one movie and will never be seen again. And I think it's very important.
Not just, you're not just using the Skrulls, you're using Talos. Like,
it's very important to keep Ben Mendelsohn in the extended cast of the MCU because I think he's a treasure. And I really enjoyed his character, probably one of my favorite things about Captain Marvel. But I am like, it kind of, to me, I'm like, the whole, bitch, you've been to space thing is like, that's funnier if it's from Nick Fury and not from Talos.
I actually don't like that line.
Don't you? I think that's great because that's
I think it's the bitch please that I don't like.
Right.
It just feels out of character and
to
strange.
me, it's the answer to that question that I made a video about where it's Now no one cares that they go to space anymore, and it's like you just need someone mentioning that this is ridiculous. And like how do you do a film called Spiderman Far From Home about him going to Europe when he's been in space? Like he just died in space.
There was I saw an interview that was about like, oh, bitch please, you've been to space, as there was an ad-lib by Samuel L. Jackson. Like, no, that's one of the first lines we wrote in the script.
Yeah, exactly. And also the whole thing about Happy Hogan being able to tell him what was up.
Aunt May.
Huh? What?
I said being able to bone Aunt May.
Oh yeah, that was great. No, but when he lets who we think is Nick Fury know what's up by giving him like a code word, like it's pretty weird that Samuel L. Jackson would brief Talos that there's a code word for this specific thing, and I don't know.
Well, I think it's just it's not like there's a code word. It's like, hey, this is my message. And also, Skrulls can, when they duplicate someone, they can steal their memories.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, well, he just says appearances can be deceiving,
right?
Which is it's like a coded message. It's not a code. They don't pre-organize like, hey, Happy, if Mysterio ends up being a villain, can you please call me and just say this line?
Yeah. No, I guess to me, I've never been a big fan of using shapeshifters as a twist. Even before Captain Marvel, like I'm pretty sure I said it on the podcast, is like I can't think of any character being a Skrull that would actually be satisfying to me. I think it would wreck what has already been built. And in this case, it's
but then
like,
if they turn into Ben Mendelsohn, it's like, oh, okay.
Well, Ben Mendelsohn's cool, and I like seeing him again, but I don't feel like the movie is enhanced by knowing that Nick Fury and Maria Hill weren't actually themselves for the rest of the movie.
It's more just the implication that, oh shit, Nick Fury's in space with the Skrulls. That's the more important tease of that. I guess.
Because why is he there? So I really liked it. I really liked how it. I mean, the big question at the end of our MCU episode was like, should this have been in a year's time? Should they have held off making this movie for a bit? And then when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, it's a perfect kind of reprieve to the phase 3. Watching the actual movie, I think I still would have preferred if this was like the first movie next year and the first movie of phase 4. I think that still makes more sense because it's not like, it still feels like it's the beginning of stuff,
right?
And not necessarily the end of stuff. And I do think, like, because they mentioned at the start it's been 8 months since everyone came back, and which isn't true to what has actually been in real life. It's been less than that. And I think even just from a tonal, like how we as an audience are supposed to feel kind of thing, I do think we needed a bit more
of a
time
break.
before,
Yeah, right.
before
that makes
coming
sense.
back into it. Yeah. So yeah, that's my ultimate diagnosis, I guess.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I one thing that I really liked about this movie that I didn't think I would going into it was I actually really enjoyed the relationship between Peter and MJ.
Yeah, that was cool.
And because
I liked that as well.
despite the fact that the MCU has had love stories in essentially every film, well, not really, but only like one or two of them have really stood out.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, arguably Pepper and Tony, and then Cap and Peggy would be the main ones. Cap and Peggy is the main one, but yeah, I actually really bought into Peter and MJ. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. Surprised you didn't buy into Thor and what's her name?
Jane. All right. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't have too much more to say.
No, I think we've fulfilled our
22 minutes.
quota. Yeah. Cool. Okay, thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I thank you for your donations, and we will be back with another episode soon, I'm sure.
Later.
Bye, everybody. Bye. Well, okay, you're back with AJ again. That was our Spider-Man Far From Home episode over on Patreon. Again, if you want to get involved, that is Film Franchise Follow-Ups. That's our show over at patreon.com/cultpopture, where if you donate only $5 a month, you get to listen to all sorts of Film Franchise Follow-Up episodes. And yeah, now we're going to play you an episode of generic_movie_podcast.exe, where we discuss Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. We're recording. Where's my microphone?
Yeah.
Let's find it together as we...
Oh, shit. Are we still recording?
I think we're still recording.
This is unprecedented. Here on the Cult Popture podcast, we've found it.
No one's ever done it this way. No one podcasts like us, dude.
Not like this.
I thought that it was plugged in. Well, it was plugged in, but I didn't realize it was. All right, you should have heard in real time what it sounds like as someone moves closer to a microphone. Welcome to Patreon, the Patreon podcast, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome. I'm sorry, I'm being so bad. Try and put my phone on quiet time.
Yeah.
This is Generic Movie Podcast.
Generic_movie_podcast.exe.
Well, it takes too long to say. It takes too long to spell.
It was a dumb idea. I'll say it. Suggest a name in the comments.
Are you serious? Change the name of
Yep.
Generic Movie Podcast?
Generic_movie.
Should we just call it Generic Movie Podcast?
No. All right. Okay, so as voted by you, the patrons, we're going to be talking about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, the 2004 film starring Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet, Kirsten Dunst, Tom Wilkinson, Mark Ruffalo, Elijah Wood, directed by Michel Gondry, and written by a few people, but most notably Charlie Kaufman.
Imagine being one of those few people who aren't most notably.
Well, Michel Gondry is one of them, I know. It could just be them two. I don't know. They won an Oscar for it, though, I'll tell you that.
What did they win?
Best Original Screenplay.
Right. Okay. So this movie...
Yeah, what's it about, dude?
Is about it's sort of like an unconventional love story, if you haven't seen it, that follows a guy named Joel, played by Jim Carrey, and a woman named Clementine, played by Kate Winslet. And they have previously dated and had a rocky relationship and broken up. And when Joel goes to see her to try and make amends, she has no idea who he is. And he finds out that she's actually had her memory erased in an experimental procedure from this little startup company where they erase your memory. And he's like, right, well, I want that done.
Not just erase your memory, but they're like specific. You go on with a specific person you want to forget.
Yeah. So he turns up there because he wants to get it done too. And while he's having this, they basically map out your brain, find all the memories that you have of this person and erase them. But while they're erasing him, Joel inside his head realizes he's still in love with Clementine and doesn't want to lose her. And it becomes kind of like a race against the memory erasure to figure out how to escape it and not have her be erased from his mind.
Yeah.
It's structured non-linearly in the beginning. The opening credits don't happen until like 17 minutes in or something like that. And it's very strange. It's a easy to understand movie dressed in the clothes of a complicated, hard to understand movie.
Faux show, which I think is part of the genius of Charlie Kaufman. He's got a lot of films like that, like Adaptation's another one. You haven't seen any of his movies in there. Synecdoche, New York is the one that's the most hard to follow and quite complex.
Right.
Have you seen it?
No.
Oh yeah, it's on Netflix.
Should check it out.
Yeah, you should. I think the only and what else has he written? Anomalisa, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Being John Malkovich.
Being John Malkovich, Being John Malkovich, Adaptation, and Eternal Sunshine, I'd say, were like his big three. And then he's also got a new film coming out next year called I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which is coming out on Netflix.
It's a good title.
Yeah, starring Jesse Plemons is going to be in it.
Oh, he seems built for a Charlie Kaufman movie.
I do just want to say one thing about this film is that you have like some weird like crumb on your elbow.
That's a leaf.
Ah.
We're in the same room.
There we are. So what did you think of this film? I'm going to look up what it has at Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay. I'd seen it before. I've seen it a couple of times. I first saw this movie. I sort of half saw it. I remember my parents, when I was like maybe 9 or 10, got it out on DVD from the video shop, from Video Easy, and they put it on while I was like doing something else. We watched like the family movie, and then they're like, all right, we're going to watch the grown-ups movie now. And I think I went on the computer while they were watching it, and I was so distracted by this movie, and I thought it was so interesting. I wasn't really following what was going on, and that dreamlike ethereal quality to it was really effective on me. Like, it really impacted me, and I remember not understanding it but loving how it made me feel, like the atmosphere of it. And so I sort of tracked it down when I became a teenager and watched it a couple times since then. I think this is a fantastic movie.
It's
agree. So good. One of the things I love about it, beside the fact that it's a really interesting abstract concept that is pulled off so well that you're never really confused. There's also two other sort of storylines going on in it. One is that Elijah Wood's character, who is one of the guys that erases your mind. He like fell in love with Clementine when they erased her mind, and he's like got all the files from Joel and is like trying to make her fall for him, but it's not working because he's not as charming as Joel. And it's just, and the other storyline is that the sort of interns who are doing the erasing, they get drunk and stoned while doing it in Jim Carrey's house and Joel's house, and end up, they lose track of him in his mind, and so they call up Tom Wilkinson, who's their boss, who comes and turns up, and you eventually find out that Kirsten Dunst is in love with him, and that they had a previous relationship that she chose to get erased from her mind. And so what I love about this film is that you start with the central concept that there is a facility that can erase the memory of a person from your mind, and the three main storylines are all, like, you've got your Joel's storyline is just the basic following of that idea, but then with Elijah Wood's character, it's like, how does this get perverted? And with Kirsten Dunst and Tom Wilkinson and Mark Ruffalo, it's like, how does this affect the people doing it? And like, it's also kind of like a neat plot twist in the middle of the film.
I actually had a similar kind of experience, I think, to you. That I swear I saw like half of it. My sister was watching it, and I caught half of it, or I knew she liked it, and then I watched it on my own and was able to really take it. I think I did a month where I like watched all of Charlie Kaufman's films,
right?
Like over a week or so, and yeah, it's a really good film. It's interesting because dramatic roles from Jim Carrey are so few and far between.
I can name you three, I think, off the top of my head.
Go.
So Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah.
The Truman Show, which is that even that dramatic?
I'd say that's the go-to example.
Yeah. And The Number 23, directed by Joel Schumacher, which is a movie I also saw when I was a teenager, probably the same time I rewatched Eternal Sunshine, and I was like, this movie's so cool, and I told all my friends about how the number 23 is this magical number that crops up all through time and space, and everyone thought I was so fucking annoying for talking about it all the time. And then I bought it on DVD when I was an older teenager, rewatched it. It's not good. It's no good.
It's not, but I loved that film, and I haven't rewatched it since I was an edgy teen.
It is. It's like a shitty version of The Butterfly Effect, which is also a movie that isn't very good when you watch it as an adult.
Yeah. There's another one he's in called like True Crime or something like that. What's it called?
He's True Crime.
Yeah.
And he's like it's like a Swedish or I think he's a Swedish or a Danish character in it.
Yeah.
Like he has an accent.
All right.
And it went real under the radar. I remember seeing people talk about it.
Yeah, because he's got like a shaved head and a beard.
Yeah. Should check that out.
Yeah. He's also got that another one coming out. We saw the trailer for it at Rise of Skywalker. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, serious roles.
Yeah. And also they played, we saw the trailer for it at Rise of Skywalker, and they played the old one, with human teeth Sonic.
Yeah.
So this film, what do you reckon it has a Rotten Tomatoes?
I reckon in the 90s.
Yeah, you're right.
95?
No.
98?
No.
Lower or higher?
Lower.
90?
No.
91?
No.
98?
Lower.
97?
Lower.
92?
Higher.
93.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I find this movie like, even from a filmmaking standpoint, point of view, it's really cool. Like,
it's so cool.
Michel Gondry, the director, he has a lot of he's such a great low budget filmmaker, I think. Mm-hmm. So he did a film called Be Kind, Rewind. I
remember that.
Yeah, which is a lot of fun. It's Jack Black and Mos Def, and they accidentally erase like an entire video store of movies, and then so they like make sweeted versions of the films. That's what they call them, where it's like, oh no, this is the version of Ghostbusters from Sweden. And then it's just them.
Why it's called that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's where the term came from.
So that's what like sweeting a film refers to, because they claim that it's like the Swedish version of the film, but it's just clearly Jack Black and Mos Def. And that's quite a like weird film. He did The Green Hornet as well, but that was his kind of foray into big budget filmmaking.
Blockbustery.
Yeah. And then most recently he did that TV show Kidding with Jim Carrey.
A serious role for Jim Carrey.
Yeah. Which I never watched, but it looked quite cool.
I heard really good things about it.
Yeah. And there's a famous single take shot in that where it covers decades, and there's a real cool behind the scenes video of how they do it, where the camera's
check that show out.
Moving around. And do you know he directed the episode of Flight of the Conchords with Carol Brown on it?
That's one of my favourite episodes.
Yeah.
It's probably my favourite episode.
Yeah, with the where he falls in love with the Australian.
I love that episode.
Yeah, and it's directed by Michel Gondry.
I think it's called Forbidden Love or something.
It's Unnatural Love.
Unnatural Love.
But one thing I love about this movie is there's a few feelings that I love when movies can elicit from me. One example I think I've brought up on the podcast before is the end of The Disaster Artist, where James Franco, Tommy Wiseau, is sitting there in the movie theater and everyone's laughing at him, and then he leaves, but then his brother Dave Franco,
spoilers,
Greg Sestero, convinces him that like it might not be the reaction you wanted, but look at how happy you're making all of these people. And he sits there and he comes to terms with the fact that even though he's not proud of it, he's still bringing joy to people.
Yeah.
And it's such this like, watching that film, that's like such a beautiful feeling. And that's like, I would love to make something that elicited that reaction. Like the reaction that you feel watching The Disaster is not what Tommy Wiseau is feeling.
These kind of melancholy somewhere in between happiness and sadness.
Yeah, it's melancholy.
Yeah.
But then another thing that I love is the concept that I love being explored in films is the concept of memory, and because I've always found it fascinating that you can try and remember something, like.
Well, do you know how it works, like mentally?
Well, yeah, I guess.
You whenever you remember something, you're actually remembering
a
the last
copy
time
of it. Yeah,
you remembered it. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the fact that like have you ever like when you struggle to think of something, when you're like, oh, I know this, and then you go, duh, and then you go, oh, that's what it's called. The fact that you can essentially have a physical filing cabinet in your mind that you're sorting through, and you go, oh, I know it's in this section somewhere, and then you can actually pull it out. Like you'd think that if it's just a shadow of a memory, that should be all it ever is, but you can somehow look for memory.
Yeah.
And that's such a fascinating concept to me. And the idea of wanting to be able to remember something but not being able to.
Do you know? Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful idea to me, and that's kind of what this whole film was about. It's like trying to hold on to memories that are being taken away from you, and yeah, I've this like in the last 2 years, I've felt like my memory has gotten real shit. And like there's people, places that I like have no recollection of that I know were like super important to me 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Whereas I've always like prided myself on having like a real good memory, but I'm just having these weird black holes in it.
Yeah, I told everyone I had a good memory, but I'm really just really neurotic and remember when people say something to me and how I feel about it.
But another film that explores a similar idea is Your Name, the anime film that I like, because that's about it's a body swapping film, but every time that they swap, they describe it as feeling like a dream, and so dreams are hard to remember. So like when they swap back to their own body, they have just like the vaguest recollection of what actually happened, and so it's that trying to remember something that's slipping away from you is such like a beautiful idea to explore, I think.
Do you know that like when you're like you forget like an actor's name, and you can remember everything else in that moment except for what that actor's name is? Do you know that that's actually like a mental process that like your brain has isolated the thing you can't remember and is essentially like withholding it from you, because you'll never remember it when you're trying to remember it. You have to go away and start thinking about something else.
And another funny thing about memory is that when you walk into a room and forget why you're there, it's because doors essentially send a signal to your brain that to compartmentalize everything from the last room, because you're now entering a new area and you can forget what you knew. So yeah, that's why that happens. And also not being able to remember what you were going to say is called lethal logica. It's a fun fact there.
Cool. Is The Science of Sleep Michel Gondry?
I'll look it up.
Because I've only seen a bit of it, but that looked very similar to Eternal Sunshine. There's someone important involved in that film. I can't remember who it is. Someone of Michel Gondry, Charlie Kaufman kind of ilk.
The Science of Sleep. Isn't that, I don't know. Yeah, it's Michel Gondry.
Yeah.
Written and directed.
We should watch that. Apparently it's real weird. Anyway, I really like the scene and what I remember seeing when I was a little kid, the scene in Eternal Sunshine where he first tries to hide Clementine from the erasure by taking her to another part of his brain, and it goes to when he's like a 4-year-old kid and she's his babysitter, and now he's hiding under the table because his mum is ignoring him and he doesn't like it, and it does
a lot of things with forced perspective.
Yeah, so how does it? Do you know how that scene is filmed?
Yeah. Do you know?
You tell me.
Well, so it's essentially like, have you ever seen the behind the scenes photo from Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Where it looks like Ian McKellen and Elijah Wood are sitting together, but their seats are actually like massively, like Elijah Wood's sitting way further back, but the seats are scaled in a way so that when you shoot it from a certain angle, it looks like one thing. And there's also like those rooms you can get at like fun houses where it's still to do with it's tricking your eye when you look from a certain point of view. And so one side of the table that they're on is like, just to scale a normal table, and then on the other side is like scaled up, but when you shoot at a certain angle, the like I guess like parallax effect of a camera, or when your perspective goes out and whatever, it's way bigger, but you can trick the camera into seeing it a certain way. So when Jim Carrey's on one side of the table, he looks tiny, but then when Kate Winslet's on the other side, on the front of the table, it just looks normal sized. And that's kind of what I love about this film, is that there's so much like practical stuff done like that. A lot of when memories are fading away as well, it's shot essentially in pitch black, but with a really harsh like light attached to the front of the camera, essentially. So you get this beautiful vignette, but it's quite harshly lit. It's very like disconcerting. It's almost like a horror movie. When they're first exploring some dingy warehouse or whatever, and it's a very small part of it that's illuminated, and I think that works really well with the memory thing. Is that like it's very selective with what you're shown. And that they do some great stuff with, like, because it's jumping from location to location, and so there'll be like at the beach, and then it will cut, and they're in a bedroom, but there'll still be like the posts and a bit of sand on the bedside table, and there's one shot as well where Jim Carrey's seeing the memory of going in to get his memory erased, and when he's in the interview, he's got a beanie on. And then when he's watching it, he doesn't, and it's one shot that swings between them, and it's just Jim Carrey running behind the camera, putting his beanie on and changing his like physicality completely. And it's a lot of those, because I think the budget for this wasn't insane, despite it being so high concept, because Charlie Kaufman, is still quite underrated in Hollywood, I guess. But it's these really clever low budget solutions to things, and that's what I really like about it.
Yeah, man. I feel like this movie came out in 2004, and it birthed a whole bunch of movies trying to be like it. I can't give you any examples, but it feels very familiar, and yet this is the only one I can really say that I really dug. Both in the it's almost like I don't know if precursor is the right word, because I think this did exist before it, but it almost feels like some kind of grandfather to the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about
Winslet.
that. Like, do you think that she's a Manic Pixie Dream Girl?
No, she's too complex to be a Manic Pixie. And it deconstructs the like folly of the fallacy of a Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Yeah, because the first I guess the first Manic Pixie Dream Girl was Garden State. Like that's the one that really made it like.
And that was 2004
as well.
Okay, and people often quote Elizabethtown, which is Kirsten Dunst as well, as being one of the originals. But I feel like this birthed both movies where there were characters similar to Joel and Clementine that totally missed the complexity of their dynamic. And Eternal Sunshine, but then also these mindfuck, gentle mindfuck movies. They're not Inception level crazy. They're when did Primer come out?
That was probably, I feel like 2006,
because it almost feels like this would have pushed Primer, which is a good movie, but I'm not shitting on it.
That was 2004 as well.
Oh, there you go. Maybe not then. I don't know. Maybe the collective consciousness of Hollywood was just in a mood for this kind of thing. I guess it birthed a genre of indie film, I guess is what I'm saying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, would you call this an anti-rom-com?
Well, anti-rom-coms, it definitely is for the most part, but it does have that hopeful ending because they decide to stay together despite everything that will probably happen, which is very romantic and very human.
Yeah. But similar to Arrival as well.
Yeah, sure, totally. Anti-rom-coms typically are like their purpose, or I don't know if anti-rom-coms even a defined genre, if it's just something that people have like speculated about.
Yeah, because the framework you would use for anti-rom-com would be 500 Days of Summer, right?
Yeah. An anti-rom-com is usually designed so that the characters, the point of it is to be a movie about realizing you shouldn't be with someone, because that's almost just as important as being with someone, or if not more. You know, so it feels like it's a bit of a betrayal of the idea of an anti-rom-com to end with them getting together.
Yeah, but I guess that I don't know.
That's if anti-rom-com's even a defined.
Yeah,
set of rules,
I would say if you think that an anti-rom-com exists, this definitely would be one, I would say. Because it's all about falling out of love, I guess. Like, we see more... We're shown more reasons why they shouldn't be together almost throughout the film. We're just told that they want to be together.
Which is awesome. So good. So
yeah. It's because even the fact that they, decide to stay together at the end is kind of a bittersweet ending, because it's like, well, we just know that this is going to happen again.
Well, we don't know. We think.
Well,
it's possible it won't. And that's what it leaves you with.
Yeah. But it is a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Speaking of Charlie Kaufman, did you ever hear about a movie he was going to do called Frank or Francis?
No.
It was announced to be like this big project he was going to do. It was about so it was about Hollywood, and Steve Carell was going to play this pretentious new director, this pretentious director that was receiving Oscar buzz for all of his for his new film where he played every role. And then Jack Black was going to be an online troll.
Yeah.
And there was Nicolas Cage was in it as well, and he was playing like essentially a parody of Nicolas Cage, I think. And the whole thing was a musical.
Oh my god.
And then just no one wanted to make it. No one would fund Charlie Kaufman, and so it never got made. And then I think that was going to be his follow up to Anomalisa, and then it just got shelved. And now he's doing this film for Netflix.
Right. Would it have been a stop motion thing?
No, it was just like...
So just a follow-up.
Yeah, it was just like when he was talking about Anomalisa, he was like, oh, this is my next thing.
I'm not the biggest fan of adaptation, but I really like...
I really like adaptation.
I really like being John Malkovich, and Anomalisa is really good. What was I going to say? Can't remember now.
Lethalogica,
there you go. Richard, where's my sequel, bro?
Ooh.
Can
we talk about titles quickly?
Okay.
What do you think of the title of this film?
It's really beautiful. It's not like...
It's one of those weird ones that I like...
Because it's a quote from a poem, it's not as pure as if it was just a line in the film.
Yeah. But it is like... Even if you don't get it, it like fits the film.
Yeah, well, it emotes imagery of mines and
mines and that kind of thing. Anyway, because I don't know how I feel about the title. It feels like a little pretentious,
right?
To me, like it's like if someone was like, "Oh, check out this film, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind," I'd be like, "I'm not going to watch that."
Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, well, even Requiem for a Dream, just because it's short. I don't know. What if you had to retitle this film? What would you call it?
Oh, jeez.
Forget Me Not.
It's too. It's
too
almost
on the nose.
The other end of the scale.
It's too stupid.
I don't know. I guess if you wanted to shorten it, I feel like Spotless Mind isn't quite as bad as Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless or Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah, Eternal Sunshine's are kind of cool.
But even that feels just as pretentious,
Yeah, I don't know, because Eternal Sunshine just refers to like happiness. I guess maybe just call it happiness.
Yeah. Call it My Happiness by Powderfinger.
That's a good song.
Yeah, man. Where's my sequel, bro? So we're going to come up with sequel ideas. This could be an FX limited miniseries sequel,
Yeah.
You could do like Return to this universe and...
Yeah. Although the fact that the company shuts down at the end, I think.
That's true.
You could just retcon the ending.
The technology still exists.
True, yeah. It's someone getting their hands on the technology.
Or maybe all that it's keeping from the movie is the concept of having your memory erased or exploring your memories. And you can just look at that through different lenses.
Nice.
Sort of like how the sequel to Jingle All the Way is just the only thing it retains is
story.
They're looking for
it's
a
like
toy.
the Cinderella story.
Yeah, it's a Cinderella story.
Yeah, an Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind story, Christmas Wish.
Yeah.
That's my sequel.
I love it.
All right. How long have we been talking for?
26 minutes.
Oh, that's probably enough.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening. Thank you. I'm glad I rewatched this film. I've got it on DVD, but I just haven't rewatched it since I've owned it.
We were a bit bummed because we were like kind of felt like Love Actually was the more generic movie podcast.exe movie to tackle and discuss.
Yeah. It's funny covering good films on this podcast because it's like, I don't know. It feels like I'm not like You get worked up about something being bad, but when something's good, I'm like, yeah, no, actually, fuck, it is real good.
Yeah, and I forgot how much I liked this movie.
Yeah,
too.
same. Yeah.
I kind of was semi-dreading rewatching it, but I hadn't actually seen it in probably 10 years or so.
Yeah.
It was actually really good. So thank you, everyone who suggested it.
Yeah, and everyone who voted for it.
Yes.
Because only one person suggested it.
Well,
thank you.
I like to think
person.
that if you vote for it, you've also suggested
you were meant to suggest it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's us for the year, I guess, isn't it? For Patreon,
This will be the last Patreon podcast
So,
of the year.
Merry Christmas.
Unless it's
Happy
already been
New Year.
Christmas. I think it'll have already been Christmas.
And as always, go fuck yourself.
Alrighty, and that was Generic Movie Podcast, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and that is our episode. That's our sample pack Volume 5. Can you believe we've released 5 sample packs over the years? And yeah, again, if you liked that show and you want to hear more Generic Movie Podcasts and you want to even suggest generic movies for us to podcast about, although I guess it's more the podcast that's generic and not the movie itself, you can head on over to patreon.com/cultpopture. That is part of our cult leader tier, which is for only $10 a month. But otherwise, there are plenty of other things you can get from joining our Patreon. If you only want to donate $1 a month, then you get to... Sorry, you probably just heard my phone go off. If you only donate $1 a month, then you still get an awesome reward, which is you get to suggest and vote on which franchises we cover on the main show, so that's always fun. And there is also, of course, a $15 tier, which involves, which is called the Cult Elder. The $1 tier is called Drinking the Kool-Aid, $5 tier is Cult Member, $10 tier is Cult Leader, and finally, the $15 tier is Cult Elder, where you can join in on the conversation of the franchise of the fortnight. You can also often get given post-credit scene. You get to suggest a post-credit scene for after the music stops. We're not doing that for the sample packs, but they are on the regular show. But if you don't have any money, and that's totally cool, if you want to support us in other ways, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter. You can email us at cultpopturemedia@gmail.com, or you can join our Discord and be a part of our little community and get amongst it and say hi to everyone. So any of these ways will be helpful for us. Hope you enjoyed the sample pack, and ka kite. We'll see you next time.